Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I've got, Charlie from Hammer's Chat in the house, mate. And it's a great day to be a West Ham fan, ain't it, Charlie?
Oh, bro, I'm ecstatic still. I'm ecstatic still.
Well, that's all good, mate. That's all good. And you're going to do a season rating of all our players, mate, today or this evening. And I must admit, let's have a quick talk about the game, Charlie, before we get into it, mate. It was a first 30 minutes. I thought we was not all that, mate. If I'm honest.
I felt like we were really like. We were a little bit. I think we were lucky because they were creating good chances, but they were all fall into Kyle Walker-Peters. And it's like, look, I was really impressed by Kyle Walker-Peters today. I thought he was a really good player, but he's not a striker. He's a right back, and he was. Yeah. You could see that every time it came to him, there was a little bit of hesitancy, not quite on target. The one where he ends up lying on his back, and you could see it in his head. He was like, "Oh, that was close." But those chances dried up, and once they dried up, it was after our first goal, and we just sort of put them to the sword. And after that, you can see why. You can see why A, they are where they are and we are where we are, but also B, why they've conceded the most amount of goals in 2021 because once we scored one, the floodgates just opened.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I actually said 3-1, and then yesterday and today I said 3-0. I was like, you know what? I just fancy us to roll them. If we can score early, which we did, we scored 2. Like, I think if we go a goal behind today, it's a different game. Like completely. I think we don't come out. I think as soon as we scored, then it was like all hands to the pump. And then Declan Rice's third goal, I must admit, I've never seen defending like that in my life. He was like, should I defend? Should I defend? No, I won't defend. I'll just let him score.
He was running through. Declan Rice, of all people, was running through. And he's not he's not slow as Declan, but he's certainly not fast. And he had all of the time and space in the world. So much so that I was like, oh, he's going to try and pass or something. Because he was slowing down. He was slowing down to like assess the situation. He was looking left and right. And he ended up just one-on-one with the keeper. And he was like, oh, okay. And just sort of smacked it in. I was like, lads, let's go. Yeah, he was almost as shocked as everyone else was at the end.
I know, mate. I know. You couldn't make it up. Like, I think he was like, get over here. I've got a celebration to do now. Do you know what I mean? But they was top class today, mate. I must admit, they got the job done, and we are Europa League. But let's get into this, mate. Charlie, let's go, mate. The first one, Lucas Fabianski. Rating out of 10, mate.
Are we all right? So let's setting the rules out earlier. Are we allowed to put 0.5s in there, or are we just sticking to the whole numbers? Just whole numbers.
It's whole numbers, no halves, no fence sitting, none of that.
Only integers. Okay. 7. I'll give him a 7. I think he's had a strong enough season. It's obviously been hampered by injuries and 1 or 2 duff performances here and there, but by and large, I think he's had a good season. I think he's looked like he's not looked like a Fabianski of old, but let's be real, in the pantheon of West Ham keepers, he still has looked significantly better than most. I think he's had a decent season and not one that's been not bad by any stretch of the imagination.
I thought his performance today was very good.
I
don't know about you. Yeah, I thought he was really top draw today, I must admit. Is there a game this season, Charlie, that you would say that he's sort of stood out, though? Apart from today, would you say there's a game where he sort of, think he's kept us in this game? Like, there hasn't really been a game where he's done anything amazing, but we can all remember the Newcastle game when he's done everything wrong.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean?
I think that's a fair point. I don't think he's done anything. There's been no outstanding games, but he's also set such a high bar for himself that perhaps a game. It's like Randolph in the last game, I thought had a really good game, but I also wasn't expecting anything. And maybe that makes me feel like that game was even better than it actually was, even though I still think he had a good game. I think Fabianski set such a high bar for himself that for him to be, he's been outstanding this game is almost twice as difficult. I agree with you. I don't think he's had any unreal performances to the stage where he's kept you in a game, like you said. But I certainly think if you top up all of his stuff throughout the entire course of this season, he's been very, very reliable. Apart from outside of injuries, I think he's been very reliable.
Very consistent, I would say. I never think like I haven't really sort of remembered a game where he sort of let's have a think. There's not really been a game where I've gone, you know what, he's had an absolute mare other than the Newcastle one. Maybe it's been a couple of individual things, but nothing major, so to speak. But yeah, I agree, mate. I think he's been all right. He's been decent. This man, Randolph, he's come in. He come in against West Brom. He come in against Man City away. He's played a few other games. What do you think, mate? On the games he's played, Charlie.
Yes. It's difficult to say. I can't really remember his performances outside of the last game. I think they've been sort of by the by. I think the last game was good. I felt like he played well. How many times has he played? Do you know?
I think he's played about 4 or 5 times this season.
Yeah, it's not been
odd games when Fab's been sort of like. Don't forget the cup games and all he's played in. So it's been cup games and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So he's been okay for a backup, I think personally.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide between a 5 and a 6 because I think he's either been like acceptable or like all right sort of thing. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say 6. But yeah, it's somewhere between in that sort of realm for me. Nothing big, nothing remarkable.
Yeah, I think the game at Man City, he had a good game. Like the game when I'm not sure if Fabianski was injured again in the warm up or he was injured leading up to that in training or something.
Yeah. I remember now. Yeah,
and he come in, and I must admit he played all right. And when everyone's seen the lineup and seen Randolph in goal, we're thinking we're going to get it for 6 here. We only lost the game 2-1. We played arguably pretty well in that game and was unlucky not to get something from that game. But yeah, I agree, mate. I think he's been all right. He ain't been as bad as everyone makes out. Well, let's get to this man, Mr. Cresswell.
Very, very good. Very good.
Do you remember, Charlie, when me and you spoke on American Hammers the first ever time?
I still agree with what I said that day.
Yeah.
Because I don't think necessarily what I said that day was an insult to him. I was saying how I feel like Kufau is not a dynamic player. I think what he does very, very well, but he doesn't do anything leaps and bounds above that. He's not like Kyle Walker-Peters, for example, was getting in all of these unreal positions due to his pace and everything else. That's not the type of player Kufau is. Kufau's going to get down the line. If you give him the ball, he's going to put in a decent cross. He's going to get back and he's going to do his job defensively. And I think he's very good for what he does. I still don't think he's above us. I still think we probably paid about the right amount of money for him. But I think he has been very, very good. I think when you're talking about performers of the season, he's certainly up there. He's in the top 5 easily. I would probably, seeing as we can't give 0.5s, I'll give him. Actually, no, I'll give him a 9 over the course of the season. Seeing as I can't give 0.5s, I'll give him a 9.
Before we move on, what would it have to be for you to give him a 10?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. What
would you like to see more of him do? That's basically it, really. Because I think he's very consistent in his defending, in his performance, and all. Really, I think I can't really count any games where he's had a really bad performance where I've gone, you know what, Kufau's been absolutely awful. But he's very consistent in what he does. Me personally, I think he's a defender more than an attacker. And that's what we want to see. We want to see our players defending rather than our wing back, our right back, left back attacking. And I just think for the value we paid for him, I think he's been top drawer. But why?
I think he's been top 4. I think 10 is like in my head. If we're talking about like the numbers, like 10 is like the creme de la creme, the very, very great, like almost infallible. Almost version on infallible for me. And I think he's like today, for example, I don't think he dealt with Redmond too well. And I don't think that's necessarily his problem. It's not his fault. He's limited by his pace. And Redmond is a good player. And Redmond sort of had him on toast. And there's been a couple of occasions where that's kind of happened. But he makes up for it going up the other end. And he makes up for it in other facets. Again, it wasn't like every time Redmond stepped to him, Redmond beat him. It was just he didn't beat Redmond every time, if you know what I mean. 10 for me, there's very few people I would give a 10, for example. Very, very, very few. In fact, I'm thinking in my head. I don't know how many we're actually going to see. So 9, but an incredible season, like really genuinely one of the best. And like, if you're talking signing of the year, it's very easily him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, mate.
Yeah.
Mr. Fredericks, he's come in, he's done a job on Grealish during the season, scored a goal against Sheffield United. He's basically been Cafal's backup this season because Cafal's been amazing. What's your thoughts, mate?
This is the first season I've come round on Fredericks. Before this, I thought he was a complete and utter waste of space. Wally, if you're seeing this, I don't mean that. Wally, I don't mean that. But then,
I do, Wally. I do.
I think he's before this season. I was really down on Fredericks. I felt like he had good pace, and that was about it. I felt like he recovered well, but that's because he was always out of position. But his recovery was good. But outside of that, I've not really been convinced by him at all. I'm not at the stage now where I'm like convinced, but I do think there's a little bit more to him than I've ever seen before. I think he's that playing further forward in front of Kufal, for example, like Jack Grealish. I think that allowed him. It meant he wasn't really ever out of position because he didn't need to be in position, if you know what I mean. He was already in where he sort of needed to be, which helped him, I think, defensively as well. And I think going forward, one of the things I've really liked about him when he has played, which hasn't been that often, but he's one of the few players we have who's very happy to take the ball, run it to the byline, and then cut it across on the floor. And that's something I feel like we lack a bit too. Sometimes we're a bit too often to go for the lofted cross, especially when Antonio.
Today.
And especially when Antonio's on the ball. Bro, there's no one in there. Don't do it.
Don't do it. I agree.
And he's one of the few players who really often goes to the line and cuts it back across, and that can be really, really effective at times. So I'm not saying he's better than Kufal by any stretch of imagination. I think that he doesn't. He's gone in my estimation from someone I thought we should look to move on and replace to like, okay, I can sort of deal with him being second choice for now, sort of thing. When that comes down to a number, probably a 6, but I think he's in the difficult position now where he's always going to be second choice.
Yeah.
It's just he's never going to get ahead of Kufal, is he?
What's his best position though, Charlie? In your opinion? Because as a right back, I don't think this man can defend. Like I'm adamant on that. I think he's got the pace going the other way, but this man can't defend. He makes too many. Like when I look at Kufal, he's an actual defender and he knows how to defend. His position is bang on. Every time a ball comes in, he's always either in front of his man or you know what I mean. I just look at Fredericks. He gets caught ball watching a lot. Where would you say his best position is, mate?
It's a great question because I would love to see him if we weren't so blessed with players that could play in that position. I would love to see him at right mid more. I would love to see him taking up that role in a 4-2-3-1 on the right hand side where we usually play one of a myriad of different players. But the thing is we've got so many different ones there that it's just not going to happen. I would love to see him play there more often. Maybe next season, because we're going to have Europe and stuff, maybe against the biggest teams we come up against, be it in the league or in Europe. Maybe we look to start him in those games in order to just add a bit of defensive solidity to that front line and pace where we can break outwards. Because I think that might be the solution in the Premier League. He might be good enough to play right back in the Championship. That might be the case. His pace might be able to get him out of problems and stuff. But in the Premier League, it's faster, it's better. It's just a step too far, I think, for him. So I would make the argument maybe right mid, but I've just not seen it enough to really believe that yet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I really do. Another right back, Mr. B.Johnson. Don't forget, he's had to come in this season. He's had to play left back and he's right-footed. I think he's been shuffled around all over the place. He's been a right back, he's been a left back, he's been a left full back. He's been everywhere. He's even been in midfield. What do you think, mate, of him this season?
How do I word this? 6? How do I word this? I think there's been times where I've looked at him and I've gone, yes, that's really good. And then there's been times, potentially more times than not, I've gone, he's not. Do you know what's really impressive about Declan Rice? And I heard someone else say this the other day, and when they said it, I was like, "That's bang on." He keeps getting better. There's never been a season or half a season or anything where you've gone, "Oh, I don't think he's as good as he was earlier." He's always kept getting better, and I think Ben Johnson is low key hit a wall a little bit. And I don't want to be too critical of him because he is young, and like you say, he's had a really difficult job because he keeps having to move around. He's playing left back, left wing back, right wing back, centre mid this game. Yeah. And actually, when you take that into account, I think he's been very, very serviceable. He's not looked horrendously out of place. The only times he's looked really out of place is when he's played left wing back or left back, and you see him going forward. He just doesn't have it in him. He might do it right back, but at left back, it's just not a thing because of his foot.
Do you think though, Charlie? Though, if he was to play right back, we would see a better Ben Johnson though?
I think we would for two reasons. Yeah. One, it's where he's played his entire career up until this point, and so that's going to be his second nature sort of thing. And two, just the left foot, right foot thing. He does not have a left foot. He just doesn't.
I agree, mate.
He doesn't.
I agree with you 100%.
I'm the best footballer in the world, and I don't have a left foot, so it's okay. These people have problems, but I think it's a case of his long-term future should be at right back. And the idea of him being sort of backup left back concerns me a bit, but he's third choice in that, so it's not the end of the world. I would like to see Ben Johnson go out on loan potentially next year. I really want to see him get as much game time as possible in his preferred position, because Kufal, Fredericks, they're both 28, 29. Neither of them are getting any younger. And we don't need to replace, especially Sufal, we don't need to replace instantaneously. We could maybe Fredericks in the future, but we don't need to replace instantaneously. But there's going to come a point in the next 2-3 seasons where you're going to want a young second choice right back, at least second choice coming through. And so I want to see him get as much game time as possible in that position. And unfortunately at West Ham at the moment, that's not going to happen for him. So I would love to see him go out on loan, despite how useful he is, because he can play so many different positions.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think a loan move is ideal for him. I really do. This man, mate, Aaron Cresswell, he's played in a back three. He's been a left back. He's been given a lot of assists this season from a left back position. Lots of good balls. Yeah, he's been top drawer, mate, hasn't he?
9 out of 10. But it's his second best season after his first one, where he actually won Hammer of the Year. It's his second best season. He's been so important. Like, when he's not been in the team, we've been a lot more sus. And I don't know why he works as a left centre back. I don't think he should do it. In my head, I don't think it should happen, but it just does work for him. At a back three, it really does work. And like you say, he's been so good going forward, like 9 assists. He's got the most in the team. I think he deserves a huge amount of credit. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. And I was saying this to someone else the other day, and I don't think I believe it, but I think you could make an argument for him potentially having as good a season as Kufal, if not better. But he's in the top 5 of performance for me. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. He's been immense.
Where do you think it's gone right for him, though? Like, where do you think it's gone? Because, like, let's be honest, right? And we're going to get onto a few other players in a little while. He was out the door 18 months ago. No one wanted him. Everyone said he's finished. And now, 18 months on, you're giving him a 9 out of 10. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, where's it gone right for him?
I think the credit lies with him adapting and the coaches for teaching him that way. Moyes going, right, I want him to play this role. The coaches have drilled him really well of how to play, because it's not like it's very rare when you look at us in a back three and he's playing left centre back where he looks horrendously out of position. He doesn't really do it that often. And especially if you compare him to, say, Ryan Fredericks, who always seems out of position at right back, yet he's been a right back his whole career. For him to step into that and do something completely different, which is a completely different prospect, is genuinely impressive. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for knuckling down and sort of doing it. You know, it's difficult because when that first season with us, he was this marauding, exciting left back. He was getting up and down all the time in that sort of the condensed diamond shape where he was the width. Him and Jenkinson were the width on either side. And so he was this attacking force back then. And so to see him go from that to now playing a really reserved defensive role, and he does still get forward. And I think actually a back three allowing him to be the person to come up and enjoy that sort of success is really good. I think that deserves a lot of credit, because not many people can adapt that well that quickly. So I think it's a case of him knuckling down and just doing it, and the coaching and Moyes for teaching him how to do it, because it just works. Like you said, he's gone from someone who we would have preferably gone potentially to I would be very concerned about certain parts of our defense without him.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think he's been a revelation over the last sort of time that Moyes has been here. A lot of people would have said it was time to go, but yeah, I agree, mate, with you totally. Masuaku, you either love him or hate him with this geezer. He's been here 6 years. I'm not his biggest fan, but that's just me. But how do you assess his season? He's come in, left wing back this season. And I think he's done okay. What do you think, Charlie?
Okay. I think he's at times his ability on the ball is unquestionable. He's so good at dribbling, but that's basically it. He doesn't really have anything else to his game. And that can be really useful, especially in a wing-back role where we're playing more reserved and we're counter-attacking. That opening stage of the season where he was playing left wing-back, he looked really good, and that's because that was his job. He would receive the ball from Cresswell or from Rice or whoever, and then he would just get it as far forward up the pitch as possible. And then we just have to hope he does something with it, because there wasn't much. His crossing's poor. He's not going to score a goal. He's not whatever. We just have to hope he do something with it. And I think that's his best. That's his best thing. Right, left wing back is very clearly his best role. Outside of that, he's done nothing. And I think some games that's enough. It's not enough every game. And the games where it hasn't been enough, he's verging on a liability a lot of time. And especially if he's playing left back, oof.
Yeah.
cut it, shut it down. It's an issue.
Right.
I think I'm being potentially kind saying 5, but he's had enough games early on, and he's had a hugely injury hit season. But he was important enough in that initial run that we did, where I'm like, okay, I think he's had a passable enough season.
Yeah.
Given the amount of games he's played, but it's not. I think I'm potentially being a little bit kind saying 5.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I do. Mr. Craig Dawson. He's coming on loan. We all thought it was a GSB cheap signing to appease the fans, and he's become a revelation.
I want to say I backed him from the start.
Yeah.
I want to say that. I was the only person on Hammer's chat. I was there, deadline, or whenever it was, and we signed him.
Yeah.
And I said, I think Craig Dawson's all right. I think he's pretty good. I think he gets forward well in corners, and I think he's a reliable enough defender. And everyone said I was mad. Having said that, 7. And he maybe an 8, but I'll stick with 7 because there has been some absolute calamities as well.
Yeah.
We can't completely ignore that there have been some very bad performances. I think he's been reliable enough in the majority of the games he's played, and that I'm happy with. And actually, Balbuuna leaving is a disappointment to me to an extent, because I think having 4 reliable enough centre backs, which is what we have, a great one in Ogbonna and then some other good ones, is happy with me. Makes me happy, but he has had some absolute shockers as well in there.
Yeah.
But overall, I think a 7 is potentially fair.
Do you know what? I agree. I think he does exactly what he says on the tin. He's reliable. He's an hard-working defender, basically. That's the way I look at it. If you put pace up against him, that's the only thing that I fear with this man. I think if you put pace up against him, a lively player around him, he can be exposed. It proved it at Newcastle. He had Maximan around him, and but I agree with you, mate, on that one. I really do. This man, revelation, gets better and better with age.
If he hadn't got injured, he would very easily be within a shout of Hammer here.
If he don't get injured, Charlie, do you think we would have been close to getting Champions League, even though we was only 2 points off of it?
I think there's a fair shout.
Yeah.
I think there's a fair shout. Ogbonna for the longest time never convinced me. I think his first season here, he was good. And then after that, I think he's been patchy throughout the rest of his West Ham career. He's always been a bit patchy. But the last 18 months or whatever, 2 years, 24 months, he has been so good.
Yeah.
And I still don't entirely understand how or why.
Yeah.
It just
and this is another man everyone wanted out the door. They said he's no good and like, he's got to go. And
me included.
Like,
I would have said 24, 18 months ago, even 18 months ago, I was saying that I thought Ogbonna was good, but I didn't trust him to have a great season. And that was maybe 6 months into this this sort of sequence of games he's had now. I was like, look, he's playing very well right now, but I'm still not convinced. He's had such a long period of being here, there, and everywhere that I'm not there. Like, yeah, he's so good. Out of the 4 centre-backs, he's very clearly far and away the best one. But you can also see now why Juventus had him in the first place. Why Juventus bought him. Because he's so reliable. And again, he moves. He's one of those players who seems to move faster than they look like they're going. I don't know if that makes sense, but when he's running, he looks like he's running quite slowly, but actually he's pretty quick. There's something about I love him. Is it
the positioning with him though, Charlie? But Italian defenders, they're not known for pace, but they're known for their positioning. Like, he knows how to read. He reads the game well. Like, even today, I thought he was brilliant again. Like, and I just look at him and I just think, you know what? How old is he? 33, 34 now? I'm not even sure how old he is.
I think 33 is my guess.
Yeah. And I just think he's just been absolute top drawer. Like, and he seems to be getting better, like, with age. You know what I mean? Yeah. Obviously, we've got to be looking to the future with this man and going, you know what? We've got to replace him in the future. But at the minute, he's been top drawer. Yeah. So what's your rating, Charlie?
9. It sucks. I really think he would be in a shout for Hammer of the Year if he hadn't got injured. I really do. He's so, and that's the second year in a row as well. You could argue that, like, where you're like, this guy has been the top of the pile. So good. And like you say, getting better with age, and it's so nice to see, because I don't think I think he's at the stage where he's probably not. I don't think he's going to leave West Ham, and so I just look at him and think we've got at least one excellent centre-back ready at all times. Yeah. And whoever you partner him with, I'm confident he's going to give you a great performance. And that's such an important thing for us going
forward. You think, though, Charlie, quickly before we move on, do you think he's made Dawson better?
I think it's helped having him next to him, certainly. I don't like Dawson is a decent enough leader. He's a reliable enough centre-back. But when you partner a reliable enough centre-back who again has good leadership qualities, so he can sort of marshal stuff if he needs to, and clearly he's a good communicator, next to someone as excellent as Ogbonna, all of a sudden that sort of raises his level a bit. Whereas if you put Dawson next to someone who's nowhere near as reliable, say Diop, then it becomes a bit of an issue because Dawson's the better one out of the two, if that makes sense. And then you're like...
Yeah, I agree, mate. I really do. But we're going to get on to another centre-half, and this is a polarising character. You either like him or you don't. What's your thoughts, Charlie?
I'll give him a 6. If I was in charge of West Ham, every game would be him and Ogbonna. Diop is young and has everything it takes to make it to the highest levels in the game. I can see him in the future being more than capable enough, obviously after a long period of learning, playing for a Champions League club as centre-back. But he needs to learn and he needs the game time to do it. And if I was in charge, I would make that sacrifice of playing him every single game in order to allow him to grow and to get into that position. This season, I think he's been fine. I think he's been all right. Like some games he's played really well. Other games he's played not very well at all. I think you balance it out over the course of the season. I think he's been good enough. So I'll say 6. I really like Diop. I really want him to succeed. I don't know whether he will at West Ham, but I really want him to.
Do you think he's easily criticised, Charlie? Do you think he's like, because we go on social media, he does one thing wrong and everyone's on this man. And there's been players this season, i.e. Dawson, who's, fair enough, he's done well in certain games, but in certain games he's been like gone mad, basically. Do you think Diop gets a bit criticised?
I do
easily.
And I think it's easy because he's the easy scapegoat because of a couple of things. Dawson came in and cost nothing and no one had any expectations. So when he outperformed those expectations, that meant Diop was underperforming his expectations sort of thing because he has this high budget and everything else. And then also he stood next to Ogbonna. And it's very difficult to look so good when you're stood next to Angelo Ogbonna. Because Angelo Ogbonna is Angelo Ogbonna. I think he's potentially a slight scapegoat at times. Yeah, but that's not to let him go with performances where he hasn't done it, because there have been performances where he hasn't done it. And outside of that first season he was unreal. Outside of that, he has struggled to perform very significantly. But I'm hoping that if we were to keep at it with him in the same way that when Ogbonna struggled before, we kept at it with him, we can see the benefits of that longer run. And again, he's only 23, 24 something. Like, he's young enough to really still be in, especially for a centre back, in that learning period. And he's got all of the tools, man. It's just about getting there with him. Like I say, I don't know if that will happen with West Ham anymore, though, unfortunately. But if I was in charge, I would make the sacrifice to try and make it happen.
I agree. I think he's a talent, the boy, and he needs a bit of time. Mr. Balbuuna, he's been with us 3 years now, and he's going to be leaving in the summer. How would you assess his season and his career with West Ham, Charlie?
First season, brilliant. Second season, iffy. Third season, fine.
Yeah.
I think 6 again. Like, I'm sad to see him leave. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good centre-back. I think he's for the amount he cost, he's a good serviceable Premier League centre-back, good squad centre-back. Don't want to see him start necessarily, but I'm like, do you know what? When he comes in, I'm confident enough in him to make it happen. Not had any of the worst games of his life, not had any of the best games of his life. Very middle of the road. Wish him all the best in future endeavours and all that, because I think he is a good centre back. And I personally would have liked to have kept him, but he is 4th choice, so it is what it is at this point, unfortunately.
Well, we can always thank him for that goal against Tottenham that got us that famous comeback. Do you know what I mean? That was the first one of many. But yeah, I agree, mate. I do. We're never going to get onto this man. Captain, leader, inspiration. I can't say no more about this geezer. I think he's world class. He is world class, and I just think he's amazing, really, and he's with us. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah. It's between 9 or 10, easily. I'm the only reason I give him a 9 is obviously he's been injury hit a little bit, not much though, barely anything. He only missed a couple of games in the end. Yeah. Earlier on in the season, I was quite frustrated with how often he was shooting. He scored a really good goal once and then seemed to take that as carte blanche to just keep shooting. And I was like, please stop. Because I was like, you don't need to do that. But like I said, he just keeps getting better. He really does just keep getting better. And like you say, he's one of the few players in this squad, I think, who could go on and play at the very highest level, and will definitely. He's definitely, because there's a couple of people in here who I'll talk about later on who I think could go on and play at the highest level. He will. And no matter who gets him next, they're very lucky because they're going to have an unreal player on their hands. 10. I'll say 10. There's two players who I'm probably going to give a 10. It was him and someone else, and we'll get onto that person. But yeah, 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I just think he's world class. And Joe Watt, it's going to be like the Harry Kane thing with Spurs. I think he's going to be with us for such a period of time, and then we're going to have to let him go. We're going to have no choice other than say, you know what, time to go.
He's leaving either this season, this summer, or next summer. For me, that's a guarantee. And he's going to a top team, and he's going to become. We're going to look back in 5 years' time at him in the same way we look back at Rio and Carrick and Lampard and all these people, because he's just that good. He's just genuinely that good. I
just hope wherever he does go. If he goes to Manchester City, I think I would be acceptable with that. If he goes to Chelsea, not really so, because like Chelsea, no Man City, even though they have got the money and they've got the backing and everything, I just look at it like that. Man United, okay, I could accept it to a point. Right, it's a top club. But I think if he goes to Manchester City, I think everyone will go, you know what, I've always said this, Fernandinho out, Rice in, it's ideal replacement. Do you know what I mean?
Sense, yeah.
And I can see that happening. His partner in crime, This man, Thomas Soucek.
10.
Mm.
For me, the most important player in the team, arguably, but I think the best performer. Do you want to wait till Hammer of the Year to the end, or should I say it now?
Say it now if you want, mate, because I was going to ask you at the end anyway.
It's Thomas Soucek for me. He's so important. Like, for the way we play, he is absolutely vital. And in a different team, in a different setup, I would probably I would probably say Declan Rice is probably the most important. But Thomas Soucek, the goals, the defending, the back and forth, the ground he's covered, everything. Like, and he's not a particularly great passer, for example, which you think would be a really big downfall for a player in his position. But he just does everything else so well.
Yeah.
He's just, for me, he's how many? He's 10. He's although he wouldn't go for anywhere near as much as Rice, I'm more concerned about the idea of Thomas Soucek leaving than I am Declan Rice.
Do you think though, Charlie, when Rice wasn't there, Soucek wasn't the same player? Is that a worry? Because I noticed when Rice wasn't there, and I don't know about you, he weren't getting forward as much. He was ineffective going forward, and it's funny, isn't it? He comes back, he scores a goal, like all of a sudden, like, do you know what I mean? He scores a goal at West Brom, and he scored. I don't think he scored another goal. I think that's the only goal he has scored since Rice has been back. But today he was close to scoring again. Like, I
don't think it's necessarily an unfair point. I do think there are other factors outside of it. And I also think if you're in a partnership and a double pivot, which is what they're in, your partner is almost as important as you. And I think you put in the same way, if you had Declan Rice and then you took Soucek out and put in Noble, Lanzini, whoever else, I think you would see Rice struggle as well. But I think replacing Declan Rice is a very important task, because you have to find someone who complements Thomas Soucek perfectly. Because again, he's so important going forward. He's so important defending, and he's so important going forward. It's the transitional part of his game he doesn't really have, which is what Declan Rice has. And I think the changing formation to a 4-2-3-1 doesn't suit him as much either, because there's just more people in front of him. You're not going to be able to get forward in the same way you are when there's only 3 people ahead of you. If there's someone standing in a number 10 role directly in front of you, you're probably going to be less likely to go into that space than you are if it's just the 3 across the top and you just can find your way into that space. But yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think there's other factors around it. But 10, still 10 and Hammer of the Year for me. Like, unreal. 10. Unreal.
This man, Snodgrass-left. He was with us a while. He left. He come back. The board criticised him. Yeah. You know what I mean? What do you think of old Snodgrass?
It's a good lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just a good lad, hard worker. His age, he's obviously declining at this point. Whoever gets him will get someone who, when he's on the pitch, will have a 10 out of 10 season, 10 out of 10, like 10 out of 10 effort all of the time. Yeah. They'll never give anything less than that. I think when it comes down to effectiveness, fine. I would say probably a 6 for the season he had before he left. But a great person that you like having in the team. You know, and sometimes you can have that. Sometimes you can have a person who's not a 10 out of 10 on the field, but is a 10 out of 10 off the field sort of thing. And I think he's definitely in that category. I love him as a guy. 6 out of 10 performances wise, but I love him as a guy. Yeah,
I agree, mate. I think he's a diamond. Mr. Noble, he come in, he covered for Rice. He's played some weird positions this year, Charlie. I mean, like, Mark Noble was a number 10 against Chelsea, and playing like was a bit mental, and I've seen some weird things from Moyes this year with Noble. But how do you assess Noble, mate?
6.
You said that like you was like 6, 7.
I want to give him. He's a 10 in my heart.
Yeah,
that's the problem. I love him so much. I think he's been. I think coming in, I was concerned, but I felt like as long as we kept my concern for his performances this season have been when he's played in a midfield 3. Like you say, he was although I don't think he was playing as an out-and-out 10, out of the three, he was the one who was given the license to go forward, and then he didn't have the pace to get back, and he just ended up in this sort of no man's land position, not really doing much and not really doing anything to affect the game. When he came in and was part of a 2, he looked a lot more comfortable and knew sort of what he was doing, and you could see his levels were raised because of that. Like, I think 6 is probably fair. I want to give him a 7, but I think I'll go with 6. It's going to suck at the end of next season. He sort of semi-alludes to it staying as part of the coaching staff or something. I really hope that happens, because my God, I do not want to see him. I don't want to see him go. I can't lie about it.
Yeah.
I can't lie.
It will be an emotional time when he does go, but 6 out of 10 for Nobes. This man, Mr. Lanzini, people have got polarising opinions on this man. They said he hasn't been up to scratch, but that goal against Spurs will go down in history, and that will be on Sky Sports Retro for years to come. And we would all remember that goal that time in lockdown when Lanzini hit that scream in the 94th minute. What's your thoughts, Charlie?
So I was speaking to a guy who I work for, do freelance for, who's a West Ham fan. I was texting him after the game today, and he reminded me about the Lanzini goal, specifically because he said, if Lanzini didn't score that goal, Tottenham would have finished above us.
Yeah.
And I was like, unreal. Unreal. What a beautiful thing. Not only was it one of the best goals of the season, but just that fact alone, it's beautiful, isn't it? 6. 6. I think he's shown that he can still. He's shown that he still has the ability to do it. Obviously, he's got issues with consistencies and injuries, and that's his biggest problems. And overcoming those hurdles is going to be an issue for him. I think 6 out of 10 is fair, because when he has done it, he's been very good. The Burnley game, I thought he was excellent, for example. And then he's had other games where he's looked completely and utterly useless, and he's not got a lot of game time. And this is a problem we have with a couple of players, where, especially in the midfield going forward, there's been players who you feel like who haven't got enough game time, and that's because Moyes has had a system that's worked and he's stuck to it. And I think Lanzini's one of the victims of that. So I can't give him more than a 6. I think he has the ability to be more than a 6. And if we were to lose, he's gone from this season. He's gone from me thinking, okay, we should probably sell him, but especially now we've got European football, I'm like, I don't want to see him leave. I think he's got the fact that he's shown he's capable enough to play that DM role as well, just shows how good he is as a footballer, and also that he could be super important next season with European football and everything. So 6 out of 10, 10 out of 10 goal.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I couldn't agree with you more there. Let's get to this man, Mr. Fornals.
This is where we're going to disagree, I feel.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I think Pablo Fornals is another one of those players who could very easily play for a team much better than us. I think Pablo Fornals gets picked by Moyes more often because of his defensive work rate. I think if he didn't have his defensive work rate, I think there would certainly be games. I think, for example, Benrahma would get more games. I think Lanzini would get more games. There would be, but his defensive work rate is so good that Moyes goes, right, he sort of has to pick him almost by default. I think Pablo Fornals' biggest problem is the guy seemingly doesn't know how to score. And today he got 2, and then the other day his wife got pregnant, so clearly he got another. Right, the man knows where the back of the net is to an extent, but his biggest problem is that he can't finish. He's not a natural finisher.
But do you think though?
I love him.
Do you think though, Charlie? Though he should be doing better than what he in 4 goals and assists. Like, this man's played over 25-30 games this season, and I can only I think he scored I think it's either 4 goals or it's 5 goals and 3 assists all season. Now I am not saying that this man's he's hit and miss with me. He's either very good or he's absolutely horrendous. Like, he does nothing. He'll miss chance after chance, and people will go, you know what, it's all right because it's Fornals. But if someone else does that, then it's all criticised. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. Like, and this man has been here 3 years, by the way. He has been here since Pellegrini. So, what do you think on that?
I think it's a fair point to bring up. I think I'm fine with that because of the role he plays. He's less likely to get the assists and the goals because he's the one who's going to drop back and do the defensive work that other people won't do, which makes it difficult to get to sort of to use that. I mean, I'm on the transfer marks now just to have a look, just to sort of remind myself how many games people have played. After I said whoever it was Randolph, who I didn't know. I had to double check and stuff. And I mean, like he's got 6 goals in all competitions this year, which makes him the 6th highest goal scorer in the squad. And he's got 4 assists. And like you say, it's not unreal. And I think it's not unreal, and it's not what you'd want when you say, "Oh, we paid 25 mil for this attacking midfielder. Oh, he's going to tear it up, and he only gets that many when he's played that many games." But I think his role isn't as defined as that. I think it's a bit of I think he would get more assists specifically if he played a bit forward.
Yeah.
I really like him. I think he does the work. I think he does the work which can allow the rest of the team to tick. And I think those players are almost as important. I think you could take him and put him in better teams quite easily. And I think that's why when we were up against we weren't up against no one to sign him. Arsenal were very interested in him. There were a couple other teams who were very interested in him. You know, lesser clubs like Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think there were other teams who were interested in him as well, and you can see why. And I think I'm interested to see where he evolves past this point. For me, I think when you're talking about out of 10, I would decide between a 7 and an 8. I'd probably say I'll say 7 for now, but I want to see where he evolves next season and where we go, because we're looking to. I think we're at an interesting stage where we're going to transition into something else. Like we know what we have here, we know what we have now. Can he make himself as important and as on the team sheet as often as possible? And I don't know where that will end up lying. I don't know where that will end up.
What's his best position, Charlie? Now, this man has played defensive midfielder. He's been a winger. He's been a number 10. He's been all over the place, right? And I'll never forget something that Kent Hammers, right? I really do respect this man's opinion. He turned around and said, "Is this man going to be a victim of being in so many positions that he don't know which one is his best one, so to speak? Like he's in so many positions, we can't. Like he does a job in one. Like he's the jack of all trades, but he's the master of none, so to speak. What's his best position?"
I think that's a very fair point, and I equally trust Kent's opinion. When he played for Villarreal, I saw him 5, 6, 7 times. And I think what always struck me for him, and then I ended up reading up about him, because I saw him, because I'll say it now, I'm a big Santi Cazorla fan. Flipping love that boy. What a boy. So when he went back to Villarreal and stuff, I was always interested in what they were doing and just seeing him, because what an absolute lad Santi Cazorla was. And the thing that struck me about Pablo Fornals, and then I ended up reading up about it, and other people were saying the same thing. So I was like, okay, maybe that is the case over the course of the whole season. He always looked really lost on the left. There was always times where I was just like, he just doesn't look effective out there. There's nothing going on for him. It's just not working. But then when he would play in the 10 role, behind 2 strikers or behind 1 striker, depending on which way they were playing, he lit up all of a sudden. And I think in the last game, we saw something similar, where he was when he got the ball in that hole in the number 10 slot. He had that close control and that little invention to find a little dink here, and a little turn here, and a little pass. And what he was missing was that shot at the end of it. But he wasn't especially when I saw him playing number 10 for Villarreal, he was behind 2 strikers. And so he wasn't really expected to be that guy. He was doing everything else. I think his best position is in that number 10 role, which again makes it very difficult, because we've got Lingard. Lingard might stay, so we'll still have Lingard. We have other players who can play there. It makes it difficult to nail him down and say you're playing in this position every time. But I think the only reason he gets shoved out on the left is because of his defensive work rate, and that's something I never saw at Villarreal, but I have seen obviously, and something actually, to be fair, I don't think I saw until David Moyes came in, because I certainly didn't see it under Pellegrini. And I think that's something. Maybe it's him going, right, I know the difference between David Moyes and Pellegrini. I know I'm going to have to work like this to stay in this team, so I'm going to. And that's the only reason he's looked out on the left. But going forward on the left, he still doesn't look lightning. He still doesn't look. He's still not the exciting player I think he is in the 10 position. So I want to see him more there. It's just I don't know how often that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. It's a mixed one with me. With him, he's either very good or he's thingy. But what you giving him? A 7?
7. It was between 7 and 8. I'll give him 7. But yeah, I think he has potential to be really, really good. It's just a case of but again, a bit like Diop. I think he might not realize it at West Ham because it's like he's going to be out on the left every time.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. This man, Jared Bowen, first full season with West Ham. He signed last January from Hull. How would you assess him, mate? Me personally, before I let you sort of do your assessment, Charlie, I think he's good, missing, good, missing, good.
Sure.
He's not consistent enough for me. I think when he is good, he's frighteningly good. I think we've got a talent there. But when he does go missing, he does go missing, and he's ineffective, basically. What do you think, mate?
Not as good as his first season. I think it's safe to say. I think his first 6 months here, he was lightning. He was so good, like you say. And he was consistently that good. This season, good season. A lot of inconsistencies. Like you say. I think there's been prolonged periods where I'm like, I want more from you here.
Yeah.
And for example, in the last game when he got subbed on for Benrahma, I was like, why? It's got to that stage now where I'm no longer convinced that he can consistently produce those performances. Now, I think he did well when he came on, actually, to be fair. I think he did well. He set up the shot that Fornals had, which ended up going out for a corner that Ogbonna ended up scoring. Like there were bits there, but him coming on, it wasn't like before. If he'd come on in his first 6 months, I'd be like, right, Bowen's coming on, we're going at him, it's going to happen. Whereas now I'm like, okay, he's no longer a starter for me. He's no longer. I don't know. I don't know. It's a difficult one with Jared Bowen. I think next season is going to be where I more make my mind up on him because he's had just as many good games in his West Ham career as he's had bad, and I think that's probably the case over the course of this season as well. When you're talking about numbers, I'd probably give him a 7. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see with Jared Bowen, I think.
To be continued with Jared Bowen.
Yes.
This man, coming in January, been phenomenal. Tore it up for like 10 games.
Yeah.
Been a bit missing in the last 5, I must admit. I'm not going to lie. I think he's been a bit sort of, I don't know whether his head's been turned somewhere else or he feels like he's done his job with West Ham or whatnot. But what's your assessment, mate, on Lingard?
I'd probably still give him a 9. It'd be between 9 and 8. I'd probably still give him a 9 because what he has done, those games where he did play well and the goals he scored and the assists he provided have been so important to our run that I think I would probably end up giving him a 9. I mean, again, I want to look at how many goals did he end up getting in the end. It was where is it? Where is he? Oh, there he is. I mean,
9, I think.
9 goals and 5 assists in half a season is pretty freaking good. Like you say, he would have been Hammer of the Year contender had it not been that he's dropped off, and he has significantly dropped off. I strongly agree with you there. I think the last, let's say 5 games, I think he really has at times been a complete ghost. And at other times you're like, he's just not quite doing it. Which is a shame. And I think but I think that's the difference between him being at Man United and him leaving Man United is if he was doing it every game, he would be at Man United. But he's never done that, unfortunately for him. 9 out of 10 because the stuff he has done has been vital to the team, and vital to the run we've had. And he came in at the right time. Has proven that he has got it. Like people always question whether or not he does. He does. It's just a case of how long can he provide that. And I think next season is going to be pivotal for him in terms of public perception on what Jesse Lingard is as a footballer.
I agree, mate. I really do. I really do hope we sign this man. So Charlie's gone for a 9 out of 10.
Question. Lingard, what's the... And actually, I want to get you back on 2 Spanners at some point during the summer, so we'll probably end up talking about this again then. But what's the most amount of money you would pay for Jesse Lingard at this point, transfer fee-wise?
It's got to be between 20 and 25, mate. If I'm being realistic. I think if you go to 30, I think you can go and get Pereira out of West Brom for 20, and I think he's a better. He's got a sell on value then.
No.
And I think, it's got to be between 15 and 25 for me. Like anything in that ballpark. I think if you start going to 30 million, and I think what's done it for me, Charlie, quickly, I think it's the last 5 games where he has been inconsistent. I've gone, you know what? Now I'm starting to see the real Jesse Lingard. Is this like you can be amazing for 10 and then go missing for 5, and like let's be honest, if we would have seen him in the first 5 games, we'd have seen that Jesse Lingard. We would have gone, you know what? We've had a right. We've been massively turned over here. But I do agree, mate. I think if we can get him for 20 million, I think we've had a result. I think if they ask for anything more than that, or we don't get him, go and get Pereira out of West Brom. I think he's a talent. I really do.
I agree.
This man, Mr. Benrahma.
Yes.
I'm a fan, as everyone knows.
No, really? Really?
Yeah, just a bit. But I don't know about you, Charlie, but I just feel this man.
I think before you say anything, I think we actually agree on Benrahma. I think the one thing I said is the one thing we disagree on, but I think actually as a player, I think we 100% agree. Yeah,
I just think Lingard coming in, right, has sort of derailed this man a little bit. But I think he hasn't. I don't see the criticism that other people see of him, if I'm honest. Like today, he come on, okay, he didn't really do much today, but he has, like, I think this man should have over 10 assists this season. I think, like, I'll look back at the Palace game when Antonio hit the post, the bar, everything other than the net. There's some games this season where he's been missing, but there's some games where he should have had goals from other people. What do you think on him, mate?
He's our 3rd top assist maker. And he's joint second, actually. He's got 7. Soufal has 7 and Cresswell has 8. So he's technically joint second assist maker, and he's played almost 1,500 less minutes. He's played less than half of the minutes Aaron Cresswell's had on the pitch, and he's only had 1 less assist than him. And like, it's again, and we can look at that. And the problem when you talk about stats like this, I think, and Benrahma is a very key case in this. The problem when you talk about stats like that to an extent is people go, well, they tend to think of it as one big lump. But when Benrahma comes on with 3 minutes left of the game, what is he going to do? Like, unless you're bringing on Messi, and even then, you still have to get the ball to Messi in those 3 minutes to allow him to do something. It's very, very difficult. And like, I think statistically backs up what my opinion on Benrahma is, which is exactly what yours is. I think he's a really, really, really talented footballer, and could very easily, if he was playing for a different team with a different style of football, would be one of the key, most important players in the team. You know, if he stayed at Brentford and Brentford get promoted this year, he would be the key to Brentford staying up. He would be, and he's so good. Like, on the ball, he's brilliant. Like, he has everything I would want. Like, he's not got the defensive work rate of Fornals, but that doesn't mean he doesn't defend. He doesn't have this as good as this player, but doesn't mean he's so good. It's just a case of he doesn't. I don't know about you, though, Charlie.
I don't know about you, but like Fornals defensively, I agree. But Benrahma going forward outweighs Fornals.
I also think you might not, just because someone can't just say because he doesn't have the defensive ability of Fornals. Okay, you can just put Fornals on the right, or you can do something else to balance that. You know, not everyone can do everything. You know, and that's kind of my problem. I agree with you. I don't see the criticisms that Benrahma gets. I don't see that. When the people talk about it and they talk about, you can't do this, he can't do that, he's not this, he's not that, I just think they're wrong most of the time, to be frank. I really like Benrahma, and I agree with you, actually. I think Jesse Lingard coming in, because that was just before Lingard came in, wasn't he? He was starting to start. Hadn't he started like 4 games in a row or something?
What it was, he started he started at Leeds, then he had a little bit of a dip. He didn't play at all against Brighton on the 27th of December. He come on against Southampton towards the end of the year, and he should have scored, really. Then in the start of the new year, he played 4 in a row. He played Everton away, Burnley at home, West Brom at home, and it was Palace away. And then towards the end of the month, they played Villa when I think that was his best performance by a country mile for me. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, same.
And that was the emergence of Lingard, and then I think Lingard coming in sort of derailed his process. But I just want to ask you this though, before I get your rating, Charlie. How do you think Moyes has treated him this season?
Expectedly. David Moyes, we know, when he goes to sign people, literally tells them that he can't guarantee them football or they have to earn their place and all this other stuff. Which, as much as that might be the truth, you don't say it when you're trying to convince them to join the club, you maniac. That's not what you do, right? It's not a shock to me that he did the same with Bowen. And that's someone he actually wanted. He didn't want Benrahma. He wasn't Benrahma's choice. Benrahma wasn't his choice. I'm shocked we signed Benrahma in the first place, let alone the second time when we paid all that money for him. I'm shocked it happened because it's like, well, it shows that Moyes doesn't have as much control as we would want him to, probably. It's annoying because I don't think he's treated... I don't know if treated is the word, but I don't think he's utilised Benrahma in the way he should have been utilising him. I think what you've got there is a really exciting attacking midfielder who has all of the traits to unlock defenses, especially in games where we struggle. Games we struggle where teams sit back and they play deep lines against us and we can't break them down. That's when Benrahma should be on. That's when Benrahma should get as much minutes as possible because he has everything you need to break down a team like that. Don't bring him on to play this fast, counter-attacking, long ball, direct football. He can do it, but I don't think that's his strength. I think his strength is getting him on the ball right next to a defender's face because he will take it past that defender. He will beat him. He will find the pass. He will find the cross. He will find a shot. Again, people are like, oh, Benrahma can't score. A, he did score, but B, Jesse Lingard doesn't get all of his shots on target either. This is what happens when you take shots from range. It's not a zero-sum game here. It's frustrating because I think he could be so much more. I'm hoping that, like with Bowen, at some point he will get an extended run in the team, and then David Moyes will be forced to pick him every game. Because I think if he gets an extended run in the team, like, the guy got 7 assists from half the minutes of Aaron Cresswell or Cresswell. He got the same amount of assists.
How many games he played, Charlie?
He played. So he actually played. This is insane. He actually played. This shows you how little time he actually gets on the pitch. He played 33 games, right? Kufau played 36. He had 1,500 minutes. Kufau had 3,200. That's the difference with Benrahma.
Yeah.
He'll come on for a cameo appearance. What I would like to call an Odebeku. You just come on for a bit so the boys can see you and then you head off again.
Appearance fee, basically.
It's mad. Like how you can have someone who, when they're, and it's not even like you say, like, don't get me wrong, it's not like he's played brilliantly every game. There has certainly been games where he has been quieter than most.
Yeah.
But the games he has been on point, which I think have probably outweighed the games he hasn't, he's looked so good, and yet he's just not been given those opportunities that he... It's not even that he deserves, it's that he needs. You need those opportunities to be able to become a force for the team. And if you're not given those opportunities, then what are you sort of meant to do? It's like... Yeah, it's frustrating because the talent is so clearly there. The talent is so clearly there.
Now you've got to rate him, Charlie. Give him a rating out of 10.
Having said all that, probably a 7. I think a 7. If he had more time on the pitch, it would be higher than that. It's just a case of, like, from the time he's had on the pitch, he's made the most of it almost every time. Yeah. It's just he's not had the time he needs to have to be able to get higher than that. 7 for me.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think with the season that he's had, I think a 7's fair. I think a 6 is a bit not great. And I think 8's too high, so I think 7's bang on. Yeah. This man, another polarizing character, left in January. You either love him, you either hate him. We never replaced him, or did we replace him in Lingard? Thoughts, Charlie?
Okay, how do I word this? Sebastian,
you word it while I get me drink.
Okay, fair enough. Hello, everyone. Sebastian Haller. What a beautiful boy. Sebastian Haller is the biggest shame I've ever had. Because Sebastian Haller is realistically the best striker we could have signed, the most talented striker we could have signed. And in his first season, or at least the first half of the season or whatever, under Pellegrini, he was doing it. You put him in that 6-yard box, he was putting it in net every single time. You put him in, find him, he will score. And then we got a manager in who not only didn't like him, but did not play a style of football which suits Sebastian Haller. Sebastian Haller is not a counter-attacking. He's not a lone counter-attacking striker. He could play counter-attacking football, but you need to build a team around him to counter-attack into. I still have a massive problem with David Moyes for not utilizing Sebastian Haller is my Benrahma. It infuriates me to this day what we did, and the watch-alongs right back then were just me complaining about the fact we weren't utilizing Sebastian Haller. He is so talented.
Well, I got someone who disagrees with you. It's Sebastian Heskey.
What does Bobby Moore know about football? Again, I fully appreciate the problem. And the problem with Sebastian Haller is he was stood next to Mikel Antonio, and Mikel Antonio is the perfect striker for Moyes' system. The perfect striker. You will not find someone, apart from the fact he can't freaking finish most of the time. Apart from that, if you built someone to play in Moyes' system, you would build Mikel Antonio. If you built someone to not play in that system, you would build Sebastian Haller. Sebastian Haller before us was an unreal striker. After us will be an unreal striker. Sebastian Haller wasn't right for David Moyes, and it crushes me because I'm like, we have screamed from the rooftop since that last season at Upton Park, even before that, 20 goal a season striker, we need a striker, we need this, we need that. He was here, he was stood right in front of us, and I'm not even doing a Jordan Hugill for once. He was stood right in front of us doing it, and he still scored. Like, he still scored 7 goals. He scored 7 goals and got 1 assist in, what was it, 1,200 minutes of football. Like, the guy could do it, and we've been so used to terrible strikers, Mido, flipping like all these wastes of space. Like, and it's like, just use him in the way he's meant to be used, and yet you put him in there and you go, do what Antonio does, and it's like, how? That's like putting me in a boxing match against Muhammad Ali and go be flipping Tyson Fury or whatever. I'm not a boxing fan. Can you tell? They never faced each other, I'm aware. But of course, it's not going to happen. You know, put me in a UFC ring, I'll batter folk. But you put me in a boxing ring, it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's just like Conor McGregor got bapped in a boxing ring. You put him in a UFC ring, he's going to destroy anyone. You put him in a boxing ring, Floyd Mayweather makes a joke of him, right? It happens. I'm like, it's so frustrating to look at. Because he just was the guy. Having said that, probably a 6. But like,
But the thing is, though, Charlie, I know you was letting all that out there. I thought I'd let you let it all out.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
But he has won us 4 points this season, and that 4 points has got us into the Europa League. Like, has helped us get to the Europa League. Yeah. Like, he got the goal against Palace when he was 1-0 down, and he got the winner against Sheffield United away.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is, not to bring it back. For example, what More England's GOAT said there about more movement. I've seen more movement in a corpse. He has brilliant movement, but it's not the movement this team needs. This team needs someone who's going to do running the channels, running after loose balls, all that sort of stuff. His movement is intelligent movement in and around the box. His movement is being in the right place at the right time. His movement is following the play. It's not being the guy to punt the ball at, and that's sort of what Antonio does so
I think the best way of summing it up with him, he stays within the goalposts. Haller, like, he might not do a lot, but when with Antonio, he'll run the lines and he'll go, but then that becomes an issue then, because when he goes wide, who's in the box? Do you know what I mean? He's got to cross to. But Charlie's gone for a 6 out of 10 for
And I love him.
Haller.
But being honest, I think 6. Look, he scored some important goals, like you say, got some assists. He did well when he played, but it was just a case of he didn't do what he needed to do.
Yeah. Now this man, Mr. Yarmolenko, I've gone from a high to an all-time low.
I don't. Is there another player in the squad as dispensable as Yarmolenko right now? Probably like David Martin, and that's like it.
Yeah.
Like Yarmolenko is really talented, but my man has I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know what body part it is, but he's broken just fundamentally somewhere. He scored important goals for us. He's got important assists for us. And he kind of is semi-capable of playing Moyes' system, weirdly, despite having 0 pace. But he's just a broken human being, and it's frustrating because if we need to defend, he can't. He can't. He can't.
Has he run his race though, Charlie? Because he's been here since obviously Pellegrini again, like 3 years.
100% he has. Yeah, 100% he has.
And basically, do you think it's like the times have changed now? Like we're playing a different system. I just don't see anything in him really. I don't see like even when he goes wide, he come on the other day. I can't remember who did he come on against. He come on against West Brom. No, was it West Brom? I can't remember who he come on for. I think it was the Brighton game. And he done absolutely nothing. And I just look at him and the West Brom game, that's the best bit of movement I've ever seen when he was getting subbed and then he spun the defender. But what are you rating him, Charlie? Give us your rating on Mr. Yarm.
4, 5. I don't know. I'll go 5. I'll go 5. Out of, you know how I said I don't want to sell Lanzini now if we're in Europe and stuff like that?
Said solid 3.
a solid 3 from hashtag. I think, you know how I said with Lanzini, I was like, I feel like with Europe, we can't sell him anymore.
Yeah.
Yarmolenko is legitimately the one person where I'm like, whatever we can get for him, just get for him. It sucks because he is super talented on the ball, but he's never flipping fit enough to actually play. And when he does, it's like he doesn't suit the system massively. 4, I'll stay with 4, but I feel like I'm maybe 5, but I'll stay with 4.
4 it is. This man, Mr. Antonio, I don't know what to say about him really. He's been good, in my opinion, but he should have a lot more goals. Like, amount of chances this man misses. Like, he's hit the post. I don't know how many times he's hit the post this season, but he's hit it. I think he's hit every part of the post at the London Stadium. I mean, that's how much. What's your assessment of him, mate?
8. Should be higher.
Yeah.
10 goals in, 27 games? Good return. Good return. Not bad, 10 goals, 15 assists in 27 games. Not a bad return at all. If you're being real. For someone who can't shoot and can barely pass and can't cross is good return. It's Antonio, we are in a race against time. We're in a race against time with Antonio. We need to get someone in ASAP because he's going to break down. He will be missing for a quarter of next season at least because of injuries. And even when he is playing, sometimes you just want someone else to be up front.
Yeah.
Really, hats off to him because I've never liked him as a footballer. Love him as a person. Met him twice. Think he's unbelievably nice. Incredibly nice person. If you were to pick players in squad who you'd want to go out with for drinks or whatever, after Noble, it's Antonio. But 8, very good season. Arguably the best season he could possibly have because I still think he's playing a little bit above his shoots. And like you say, man, he needs like 15 shots to actually score goals sometimes. Yeah. And again, he still shoots from range. Like, just stop. You're never going to score from outside the box. Please, just stop.
I agree, mate. I agree. I think that's a fair assessment of him, mate, if I'm honest. I'm going to ask you this one, Sean. I've got two more to ask you, mate. Right, the best performance of the season. So that's either a player's performance or a team performance.
That's a great question. Do you know what? I'm going to say Tottenham, the 3-3. I'm going to say the whole team because we were atrocious in the opening 10-15.
Yeah.
They were all over us. To fight back away against a team that good from 3-0 down is incredible. And it would have been really easy to just score 2 or something like that. And so to see us go to fight back like that, I think encapsulates our season to show that never give up, never die attitude sort of thing. Like, don't get me wrong, like you have like the Leicester and Wolves 3 and 4-0s, you have stuff like that where we've been unbeatable. But actually that grit, that determination, that fight back, that's what's gotten us to where we've been this season. Not a one-off performance where we've battered another team. You know, as a team performance, I think that is the key for me, is going, actually, everyone stepping up, getting together and going, no, we're not going to take this. We are going to prove you're wrong. Not only that we deserve to be where we are, but that we're going to step to you. And I think that's a huge thing. And Tottenham were doing very well at the time as well. It's not like Tottenham were playing badly at the time at all. So I would say the team performance versus Tottenham, even though, like I said, opening 15 minutes, rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
If I was to quickly ask you, because obviously more England's GOAT, just put in Lingard versus Wolves. He done a great performance. What player would you say? What's the best performance of a player that you've seen this season?
Maybe Lingard versus Villa was very, very, very good.
I think that's the best performance for me personally. Yeah. Even though it was a comeback against Tottenham, and Tottenham folded towards the end, I do believe that the Villa game, I thought Villa were playing well at the time. I thought we had Grealish on toast. I thought everyone dealt with Grealish. I thought our counter-attacking, especially in the second half, we looked like a breath of fresh air. Do you know what I mean? So that'd be mine. But what would you say for player-wise? Would you say Lingard against Villa?
Lingard Villa, I think. Yeah, he just, like you say, just unplayable. Really.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I really do. Let's get on to this one, right? And I'm going to leave the other one till last. GSB, summer, winter transfer windows. Now, you've got the summer transfer window. We brought in Cresswell. We brought in Benrahma. Brought in Dawson. Who else did we bring in?
Well,
that's about it.
I'm literally Googling.
Yeah. That's about it. If someone else could tell me different, I can't think of
So in the summer, you could say I guess you could say we signed Soucek on a permanent. And then Soucek, we brought in Dawson and Benrahma on loan as well. Yeah.
And then obviously the winter transfer window, we made Benrahma's loan deal permanent. We made Dawson's loan deal permanent, and we signed Lingard.
The summer is difficult. If you look at it in just terms of the success of the signings, they've obviously been very, very good. Like every signing has succeeded, every single one.
Yeah,
none of them have been a flop at all. So obviously the temptation is to rate it really highly because of that. We knew Thomas Soucek would do well anyway. We had him on loan before. Like, it's always a risk making him permanent, but I felt like it was going to work out. There were certain players we got rid of that I'm still frustrated by. Not just because I love Sebastian Haller, although clearly that's very true, but also just because of the idea of like someone like Sebastian Haller, or say a Yeti, who I felt like a Yeti could have been someone who could have done a job potentially, like not done any amazing things, but when we've needed a striker off the bench, at least would have existed. Diangana leaving, stuff like that. There's been some missteps in terms of losing players. So I think if we're doing a number scale for the summer window, I would say I'm looking at it again. A 7, and then winter window 6. I feel like if I'm being honest, I feel like if we were more active, in either of the windows, we potentially could have finished higher up table, especially the winter window.
Do you think though the winter window getting Lingard in might have just?
That's why I'm giving it a 6.
Yeah, is that just a 6 though, or is that like a high 6 going into 7 though, Charlie?
It's just a 6 because he is as an individual signing, unreal. Window as a whole, like we just got Lingard in. Like we made permanent some signings that we already had, but 2 that were going to be made permanent anyway at some point. It wasn't really something we needed. Like it was a case of having to do that because we wanted to get another loan signing in. The signing of Lingard, brilliant. But in terms of like a window as a whole, you're looking at making a huge loss on Sebastian Haller, losing Robert Snodgrass, although I don't think that was a huge loss or anything, but still, someone who could be in the squad. It's not a great indictment, like a 6. Like if we hadn't signed Lingard, woof, it would be a hell of a lot lower than that. It'd be like 3 territory. It's sucks.
I agree. And finally, Moyes in the backroom staff. I think I know what you're going to give. Take it away, mate.
Yeah, it's 9. 9. Very like the only reason I would give a 10 is if we'd got Champions League, and I think even then I'm probably being harsh. I think Moyes is. Do you know what? Depressingly, I think Moyes is what brings it down a little bit. Man still can't make a substitution to save his life most of the times. He at times does frustrating things. He has got from the stage though of where I can no longer criticize them as much because clearly the results are there.
But do you think though, Charlie, that he's got to improve when he plays the top 6? Like be a bit more positive, a bit more.
Do you know what? This is one of the places I'll probably disagree with most people. Is I'm actually perfect. I think don't get me wrong. I think he completely bottles it, and his guts fall out of his arse whenever he plays the top 6. But I think he plays the right thing against the top 6. His style of play against the top 6, I understand. I think he could learn to chill out a little bit. It's not that deep, but I do think actually I'm okay with. Like when we go up against the top 6, I'm actually relatively confident. I'm actually less confident when we go up against teams like Brighton, like Burnley. And Burnley, like the Burnley result was the most shocking one in the world to me because I thought we were on our way to get so annoyingly beaten like we have against Newcastle. Those are the ones where I'm like Moyes has to improve because they're the ones where we should be taking it to teams and going, we know our system's not going to work against you. Let's switch up to a plan B, which involves being more positive, taking it to teams and being able to beat Newcastle. Yet we never really do that. Against the top teams, they're very, very good. I understand it. I think he's too scared, but I think I can at least understand it. My bigger problem is against the actual smaller teams. And I know that's sort of the way, I think it's probably the opposite of the way most people think, but it is what it is. I think if Moyes, and what I've been saying over the last couple of weeks is that Moyes not having a plan B, as frustrating as it is, I'm fine with for now. Like, he's just come in, he's at the stage where he's built such a good plan A that's so effective that a lot of the time we don't need that plan B. But there are certain games where if we had that plan B, we would be in Champions League now. And that's okay for now. We are still in the transitional rebuilding phase. It's okay to not have that plan B right now. next season from Moyes specifically, that's the improvement I want to see him be able to switch up in the games against Newcastle and stuff like that, where we can go to teams. And Burnley was great. I thought maybe Burnley was it. It didn't end up playing out that way in the long term, but for that game it did. We can see there's possibilities there. It's just about finding it in the long term. Moyes is actually the one I would rate the least. Like backroom staff though, flipping hell. Like what a team he's assembled. Like that's 10. Like there's no even doubts about that in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Totally. And final thought, Charlie, on this season, mate. It's been amazing, really. What's your final thought on it?
Just joyous. Just freaking joyous, man. Like, it's weird doing the watch-alongs. I've almost not been able to absorb it as much because I'm so in the moment, and like I have to be in the moment. I have to look at the live chat. I have to do all these different parts to sort of keep the cogs running, as it were, that I've almost not savored it and like absorbed it as much as I usually would. Like today, and that's what the thing, that's why I'm so joyous today specifically, because there's been other games where we've done really well, where I've been like, cool, right, on to the next game. Whereas now I just look at it in its totality and gone, man, what a season. Yeah, we have at times bantered teams off the pitch. Like the Wolves and Leicester games, like the 3 and 4-0s, you know, coming back against Tottenham. There have been huge moments in this season where you go, my Lord, have we absolutely battered it. And like to get any form of European football is a huge achievement. To get group stage Europa League football and it's the first time in my life where that secondary European competition, I'm going to see us play in the group stages. You know, we went out to Palermo when I was younger. Astrages you can get in the bin. You know, we've struggled. So to see us do that at the end of this unreal season has been unreal. Like the only season I've enjoyed more is the final year at the Bowen, but I think this team has been better than that. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I've probably been better than that season.
Yeah, I think this team's phenomenal, mate. I really do. I think they've got a spirit in this team that I've not seen for a hell of a long time. The Bowen season was a good season because we was leaving the Bowen. I don't think we would have performed like that if we weren't leaving the Bowen. I think they all knew they was leaving the Bowen that season.
Yeah.
People might disagree with me, but I look at this team now. We've got arguably one of the best defensive midfielders in the country, like young defensive midfielders. I think we've got another top player in Soucek.
Yeah.
I look at our team. We need bodies though at this club in the summer. That's one thing I will say, and we need a striker at this club, if not two of them. So yeah, I really do agree with you on that, mate. But yeah, Charlie, that's it, mate. That's it for another summer. That's like the summer's going to be coming. You've got the Euros to look forward to. And yeah, mate, that's your player ratings done complete in under 17 hours.
Yes. Weird. Thinking about it, just again, how few players rated poorly. You know, it's been that good a season that even outside of a couple, for the most part, everyone's put in a really good season and a really good shift. And it's like, I've been very excited today because like we have a break. Unlike most people, I like breaks in football because I like the fact that now we get to sit back and just go, yes, nailed it. We can just enjoy it for a while and just absorb it. And then next season, we can obviously go in with all of the pressure of obviously genuinely having a terrible window and going out of Europe first time of asking all that problem. But that's next year's problem.
Yeah, it's next year, mate.
We can just have an absolute banter baller of a time.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, mate. I really do. Charlie, it's been a pleasure, mate. I've really enjoyed you coming on. Obviously, speaking to you on different platforms, doing your stuff, American Hammers, getting me involved in different things, having good debates with you on different stuff. It's all been fun, mate. It's all been good, and I really appreciate your time coming on tonight. And it goes a long way for me personally, and I respect your opinion, mate. I really do. Everyone, thanks for watching Amber's Polls tonight. That's Charlie's player ratings, hour and a half. I must admit, I really enjoyed tonight. Really good. subscribe if you're new, like, share, all that. And I'll be back again soon. It's goodbye from me.